background. And I'm up here seeing my dad. As I've said, I guess at least a few times already, that I am headed to Canada with him on Saturday, and my best friend Doug and his son are supposed to be going, but um, Hurricane Dorian might get in the way of them because they live near Wilmington, North Carolina, which of course is one of the places that Dorian is headed right now. So, who we got in here? Concha and Christy and Joyce. We're a little early. Joyce, hello, Joyce. Carrie, LaFord, Jasmine, Susan. Thank you all for tuning in early tonight. We still have a few minutes to go. But as usual, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Got a couple. Hello, Cherie. Got some questions from the audience. Just a couple questions. So if any of you have any questions that you'd like to have me answer tonight, we can do that. And it does not have to have anything to do with disappearances or true crime. It could be anything as long as it's PG and as long as it's not too personal. Hello, Anne. And like the longer hair, thank you. Sure, yeah, I'm kind of doing something different with it. We'll see how that goes. But, yeah. I'm going to let it grow out for a while. We'll see where it ends up. And I don't see myself getting it cut again anytime soon. And if you don't know, this room that I do this program from is actually the spare bedroom, the room that I sleep in when I am here. So I guess that would mean that when I do the program in Florida, I do it in the guest bedroom. And when I do the show up here, I do it in the guest bedroom. It's funny how that works out. But that's the way it is. And I know that I've gotten the comment, what is it back? What is that on the back of that door? I've gotten that question many times having done this. Those are a bunch of pins from schools and tourist locations around the United States and sports teams that my mother and father collected over many, many years of traveling. And that's where they are. They're like on a poster board, and that's hanging from the top of the door. So if you're wondering about that, that's what it is. My dad's doing good. I don't think he's going to be popping in tonight. No, Carrie. He's out in the room. He's watching a movie or something. And we went shooting guns yesterday. I got to shoot a new gun that he caught, a Sig Sauer Pig P365. It was okay. He likes it. I don't know. I'm just a Glock guy, but we have a gun range that is, I don't know, a mile down the street or something like that. So we went over there and we had a good time with it. My dad, I think he would have liked to have shot better, but I shot really well. So, and I posted some video of that earlier today. So it's 9 o'clock, 9:01. Let's get it started. For everybody that's just tuning in now, you can tell that I am in Pennsylvania, and I will be here until Saturday, and then my dad and I, and what's up, Miranda? Presumably my best friend Doug and his son will be joining us. I don't know how the hurricane is going to affect them. I'm sure we'll find out tomorrow. But Saturday we will be driving from here, which is near Butler, Pennsylvania, and we will be driving to Canada, to Rice Lake. We'll be staying at the Muskie Bay Cottages, which is a place we've stayed many times before. And we will be there till next Friday, September 13th, which Friday the 13th. And we will get home sometime that night. Still don't know what's going to go on with any sort of... I know I won't be able to talk on the phone or anything, but I don't know what kind of Wi-Fi and everything we will have up there. There will be something there. I don't know how fast it's going to be, so I can make no predictions about the live show for next Wednesday. And really, I don't know if we'll be having the think tank on Sunday evening or not. That'll be up in the air until I get up there and see what is going on. Hello, Miranda. Hello, LaFord. The Unfounders. Yes. Good term, Joyce. So that's what's going on. When did I get up there? How did I get up here? Well, as many of you know, I went over to Orlando to play in a disc golf tournament last weekend, and I was expecting to play a lot better than I did. I played very, very poorly. I practiced great. I went over there on Thursday morning and played a couple of the courses on Thursday, played real well. Friday, played real well. Then Saturday, when the tournament started, it was horrible. It was actually very embarrassing. And I think that I get some anxiety and I tried to overdo it and I'm trying too hard and everything else. And I played very, very badly, really, really badly. And it's something mentally that I'm going to have to work on if I want to play in any tournaments anymore. So after the first round was over, I already knew that I had no chances of finishing well. So I just dropped out and I jumped in the car and I drove from Orlando back to Tampa, took a shower, threw everything in the car, and at about 7:30 on Sunday or Saturday evening, I left, and I got here at about 5:30 on Sunday evening. So I drove until maybe 2:30 in the morning. I took a snooze in South Carolina for about 4 hours in my car, then drove the rest of the way up through North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, into Pennsylvania. The reason I did that is because of the hurricane. Had I waited to not leave until Tuesday or something, I would have got caught up on all those people who are evacuating from Jacksonville into Georgia into South Carolina, and that would have been a huge, huge mess. So maybe playing badly in that tournament was a blessing because I had played well. I would have had to stuck through the whole tournament, come back to Tama, and maybe not be able to leave until Tuesday, like yesterday. And I think that would have been a big mess. So maybe be playing well. Maybe it just worked out in the end, but I really have to do something about my bad play. It's something that's been going on a very long time now, and it's very embarrassing. It really is. But it's good to see you all here. LaFord says, I know what you mean, Ed. I had an interview the other day and was not myself. So much nervous energy, so embarrassed. Yeah, I have to admit that I've even contemplated maybe going to see a sports psychologist when I get back to Florida because there's such a difference between the way I play and practice. Because I actually am a very good player, but just within the last few years, I can't put my head together, my nerves together to play well. I get negative thoughts in my head, and it's all downhill from there. Hello, Paula. What's going on? Carrie says she gets testing anxiety. Yeah, Trina, do you have any embarrassing interviewing moments you want to tell us? Well, that's something, Trina, I could probably put on my list of the questions that I can answer tonight. Sure, I could probably answer that, but no names will be used. If that's okay with you. Let me hold on there. Let me write that down. Okay, Trina, I promise I will get to that before the show is over. Tara, good to see you tonight. I know that you tune in once in a while, but Tara, it's really nice to see you. Thank you for making the time this evening. Thank you. It's great to be back in Pennsylvania. The weather's beautiful. Speaking of disc golf, I went out and played yesterday, and once again played really well on a very, very difficult course up here at Moraine State Park, where they had the World Championships back in 2015. I played very, very well. It's just when it counts is when I don't play very well, so it drives me nuts. Jessica, what's going on? So that's what'll be going on, and then I anticipate we'll come back on the 13th of September. The 14th, I'm going to go with my dad to a football game, and then I anticipate starting my drive back to Florida on the 15th. I'm not going to waste any time. Probably that Sunday, September 15th, is when I'll be driving back. So there you go. So that's what has gone on, how I got here, and what I'll be doing tomorrow. I'm going to go see my sister and her husband over in Ohio, and I have a phone call to make tomorrow night, and everything going on there. That's okay, Sarah. You don't have to apologize. It's just good to see you, and I hope you're doing well. Um, John Lorden talked about you on tonight's podcast several times. I've been told that, and I had it in my notes to thank him for that. I was told somebody had posted, maybe Angel or somebody had posted in the discussion group, that I guess he had talked about Jonathan Estes' disappearance, which is, of course, a case we covered maybe 6 weeks ago, something like that, back in July. And I've not heard it or watched it. I guess he's a YouTube guy. I've not watched it, so I don't know what, how he covered it or anything like that. But I was told by several people that Unfound got mentioned, and he gave the program a shout out, and I deeply appreciate that. I want to thank him for doing that. Thank you, Cherie, for thanking him. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I thought we did a good job. Of course, there's some new news on Jonathan's case that we talked about last week regarding the Bobcat. So I'm glad that he covered it. I'm glad that it got more coverage. And I appreciate him thanking us for the hard work that we did on that particular disappearance. Of course, that's a fairly new disappearance from just last year. Terry, yeah, I saw you had that broken ankle. Sorry to hear that. Yes, Trina, I'm familiar with John, what he does. I'm familiar in general with what he does, but as I've said many times, I don't listen or watch many other true crime podcasts or shows or anything. So virtually everything that I hear about other programs is from what you, the listeners, tell me, because I rarely hear or watch anything firsthand. But that's just the way it is. Oakley, what's going on? Susan, Stephen Pacheco gave you a shout out on his live feed a week or so back. I've been meaning to mention it. That's news to me, Susan. I hope I don't embarrass anybody by saying I don't know who he is. But another shout out. I appreciate that. We'll take all the shout outs we can get. And I appreciate that. So, yeah, I was going to thank John on this show tonight, but you guys got to bringing it up first, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Fishing. So, there you go. The Trevor Nickels poll from last Friday. Of course, that was last Friday's episode, the disappearance of Trevor Nickels from Fort Drum, New York / Pulaski, New York / Syracuse, New York. And a large majority of you believe that Gage Gonzalez did assist in Trevor leaving the military. Now, the question is, to what degree did Gage assist Trevor? I think that's something that's still up in the air. I do believe that he assisted him, but as I wrote in the Patreon blog, I believe that he might have been duped. He might have been a patsy or something like that. I do not believe that Gage, at this point in 2019, knows where Trevor is. I think that Trevor talked Gage into doing something for him that then led to Trevor leaving. And as I wrote, I think in the blog, and as we talked about in the think tank on Sunday night, this Trevor's case would have to be in the top 3 cases of people who most likely walked away and are still out there somewhere. I would definitely put in Unfound's case, 140 some. He would definitely be in the top 3 most likely missing people to still be alive and be out there somewhere. I don't have much of a doubt about that. Oakley, no, I'm not in Canada. I'm in Renfrew, PA, which is near Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm at my dad's place, and I will be going to we'll be going to Canada on Saturday. What's going on, Michelle? Trace evidence, Steve Pacheco. I probably should know that. Okay, thank you, Susan. Um, okay, it was a very sad case, but we covered it in a lot more detail. Well, that's usually how we do it, EB. It's nothing against any other programs, but I think a lot of times other programs are afraid of running long. You know, they get afraid, if I go over an hour, then they start getting a little nervous and everything. And I think one of the reasons that we are able to cover things more in depth is because there's never ever a time limit on Unfound episodes. It just goes until we think that we've covered it enough. Thank you, Tara. All this recognition after the plagiarism issue. Sheree, I don't know if that's a coincidence or something else. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. I don't know. Oakley says Gage is most definitely involved, but we need more facts and evidence to move forward. That's true, Oakley. And of course, Gage these days isn't talking, so maybe one of these days he will talk again. In the meantime, I think that there are still things that Aaron can do to try to figure out, at least more information about the disappearance, and wouldn't have anything to do with actually talking to Gage again. Valerie, happy live episodes every Wednesday. That's how we do it, Valerie. Oakley, we hope we catch a lot of fish too. We're hoping to catch some big fish, maybe some largemouth bass and some walleye, but I'm guessing we'll probably catch a lot of panfish like perch and bluegill and sunfish and crappie bass. I'm guessing we're gonna catch a lot of those, but that's fine. Casey, just curious who the other top 3 are that you feel are still alive. You're putting me on the spot, Casey. Let me see, as I do the program, maybe I can scroll down and give you some other ideas of who those people might be. One of the ones off the top of my head is Christopher Hyde, which is a case we did in the first, 20 episodes of Unfound. He disappeared in Florida. I had his sister Lila on. I think Christopher Hyde is one that has a good chance. Of course, Claudia Wells, who was proven to be alive and homeless in California long after she disappeared from, where was it? Wisconsin, Illinois, up in that area. Of course, I had her daughter on, so I think that's one where it's hopefully she's still alive. I know she'd be a lot older now, and living on the streets isn't easy. But I think that's one where there's a good chance of the missing person still alive. So those are a couple too off the top of my head, Casey. Carrie, Gage helped, but unknowingly. Paula, Trevor's case was one of the few that I didn't have a good feel for what happened to him. A lot of different possibilities, Paula, but I'm inclined to believe that he did leave on his own recognizance, and of course, if he's still alive now, would like to believe that he is. We're hoping that he didn't harm himself or anything, but I do not believe that he was murdered or anything like that. Unfound is always trying to catch the big fish. Good one, Cherie. Michelle, my dad was a bass fisherman and had his own fishing show, so best of luck. That's fantastic, Michelle. I want to hear more about that. Cherie, Dale Kerstetter. That may be in your category as somebody who walked off, Cherie, but that's not. That would not be one that I would pick out. I surely believe that Dale was involved in what happened at that glass plant, but I think that he ended up getting duped into something and unfortunately being murdered afterwards. That's how I feel about it. I'm going to talk about that tonight, Tara. I'm going to talk about that. Heather, what's going on? Oakley, can I please ask why Trevor's mother has not been down to her son's place or where he's been seen last? That baffles me. Well, I don't know, Oakley. That's her choice. I'm still more confused by why Carla's stuff is still in New York after almost 2 years. Some people don't have the means, and these people have jobs, and I know that maybe sounds a little flippant or something, but it's not like, as many guests have talked about, it's not like they can just drop everything. I think employers understand to a point, but um, I think that it's difficult for all of these guests to find a balance through everything else that they have going on in their lives. It'd be easy to think that they can just drop everything and go, but it's just not that easy for some people. And I think that there's also an emotional component to this as well. Hayden is an awesome walleye fisherman. That's your son, right, Tara? Heather, just painting some signs tonight. Will you get it done, Heather? Michelle says her dad's show was local, but watched in many areas in East Texas. He was the president of our local bass club for many years. I love hearing that, Michelle. That's cool. Um, what's going on, Chrissy? Paula, she's not his next of kin, so she really has no right to his stuff. Carrie, so people can afford to do so. Yes, that's your son, Tara. Okay. So the Trevor Nickels poll, a lot of people are thinking the Gage it was more involved than he let on. I think a lot of people are still confused about whether he actually did find Trevor in Pulaski. Did he actually see him at the Amtrak train? And I'm going to be honest that I have some real doubts about whether Trevor got on a train at all. That's where I am on the case, and I've told Aaron that. Some more other things. Moselle Jones Grisham, of course, her son Dominic Holly Grisham. That's a case we covered in early 2017. Disappeared from Rochester, New York. She has started her own YouTube channel just recently, and I hope you will check it out. It's called Missing the Missing, and she started out talking the first, of course, episode talking about her son's disappearance. So we've linked to it a group. I think that Emily posted something about it. I posted something about it. So I hope that you will go and view it, and if you could subscribe. I don't know everything that she's going to be doing with it, being that it's fairly new, but it is going to be one of the few, I think, YouTube channels that covers one of Unfound's cases exclusively. So once again, Moselle Jones Grisham, mother of Dominic Holly Grisham. I have my own theories about that have not changed since we covered that case in 2017. But she now has a YouTube channel where I guess she'll be talking about her son's case. I don't know how in depth she's going to be going into that. That'll be totally up to her. Better late than never. Yes, Layla. Thank you for tuning in. Trina, I do not believe that Gage knows where Trevor is. I do not think that. That's why I think that Trevor kind of set Gage up at least a little bit. I think if Trevor is going to leave his life, he would not leave anything dangling like that where somebody who might be able to be pressured into revealing where Trevor was going. So I'm not inclined to say that Gage knows where Trevor is or where Trevor was going. I think that Gage thought he was involved in one thing that totally ended up being something else. Casey says, thanks for the response. Ed had to rewind and watch as I stepped away for a moment. I'm going to have to go back and listen to your coverage on those two cases. Very interesting. Thanks again. Yeah, Christopher Hyde's case is from late 2016. One of the first 10 or 12 cases that we covered. And then the other one is Claudia Wells, which was sometime in early 2017, maybe March of 2017, something like that. That's the way I remember it. The newsletter. I managed to get the newsletter out despite doing everything else. As you can tell, I've been very busy with kind of stacking shows or stacking episodes, you might say, for the next few weeks. We have the third anniversary that I'm going to talk about later. The third anniversary episode coming out this Friday. And then next Friday, which would be September 13th, That will be the next update episode, and it's about 2 hours and 40 minutes long. So quite a few cases to cover there. It's already been recorded. It's done. It just has to come out that Friday. And actually, I've also already done the interview for the episode that will come out September 20th. So I'm kind of worked ahead at least a little bit. It's always nice to do that. So I had time to put out the newsletter this past, I think it came out Monday though. But it got out, and I also was able to do the blog for the Patreon, even though once again I was over in Orlando. So I've been getting a lot of things done, which putting in a lot of time. Sharon says, looking forward to the update show. Yeah, little did I know, Sharon, that first of all, you have to understand the first one update episode I did was last summer. I think it was in July. And that was a request. A lot of people over those months before that had requested, hey, what's going on in this case? What's going on in that case? So being that it was not quite 2 years and had a lot of cases to cover as an update, I decided, okay, let's do that. And so that update episode came out, and what was very popular. And then the next one came out in April of this year, and it was at that point, in putting a poll out there, that listeners had decided that they would like an update episode every 4 or 5 months. So that's what I'm doing. I'm following the request, and that's why the third update episode will be out September 13th. Lisa, you got your newsletter? Great. I'm glad you got it. Fishing. Would you like to hear update on Dow Phillips? Think I figured it out. I'm fishing now. Have fun. No updates on Dow's case this time, fishing. There was a Dow update back in April. So I don't believe much has changed. That would be news to me if anything has changed since that one. The way I remember it is that somebody on Dow's side of the family contacted me pointing the finger at Missy. She's the one who caused the disappearance, and Missy and I have talked about that. But I believe that was in the update from back in April. You think you figured it out? Okay, fishing. Well, you're more than welcome to post that here, or you can contact me privately, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, or love to read it. Trina, to sign up for the newsletter, just send me your email address privately. Do not post it here. Send it to me privately at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com, and I will get you on the newsletter list. Let's take a question. Penny asked me, nope, not Tom Brown's mother, and yes, we are going to talk about Tom's case before the night is over. And but another Penny asked me, she asked me about software for identifying missing and found, like the fingerprint program. So I'm guessing she's imagining or visualizing and where missing people's pictures could then be in a database, and then you'd have, of course, unidentified remains of people and try to match them up somehow. Well, there's a couple things. I'm no technical expert or anything, but there are a few problems, Penny. I don't know if you're watching now or you will watch this later, but there are a couple problems that I see. First of all, facial recognition technology is not as accurate as it's made out to be so far. In fact, it seems like once a month where I read an article about how they were using some facial software, and the software got that they put like serial killers pictures and it just picks out regular people, something like that. Now, I realize that a country like China is using it, but you also have to remember they don't have the legal issues and rights issues that we have in the United States. So if their stuff is wrong, if they have a dragnet out there for a person, and the facial recognition software says that 100 different people could be that person, they'll bring all 100 people in and they're not invading anybody's rights at all. Of course, you can't really get away with that in the United States. I guess what I'm saying is facial recognition technology is still very much in its infancy. Very much. Okay? I'm not saying, of course, with technology, it will continue to get better and better and better. But the problem is that a lot of people, even though they may not be related, do look the same, and we'll just see how that goes. And facial, features and things are not as unique as fingerprints, at least the way I understand it. So there's that. In addition, when it comes to matching pictures of people when they were alive to remains of people, so skulls, or even, of course, the work that is done out there by people recreating, using skulls and recreating how people look, and anything like that. I think that would be also very, very, hit and miss. I gotta believe. Just hold on a second, if you could. But so I think that there are just, right now, even work with like Carl Koppelman, what he does, where he, of course, he sees remains, a face, and then he'll draw what the person might have looked like. That's just one person's interpretation. And it'd be very, very difficult to match a living person's face from a picture with remains where there are no features at all. It's just a skull. I think that would be very, very difficult. So maybe someday it'll be done. I don't think that that's going to be anytime soon, and it surely is nowhere close to what fingerprints are right now. I think it's a great idea. I think that there will be people who are working toward that, but I think it's going to be a while before we get to a point where it's as reliable as fingerprints. The newsletter makes you feel like family, EB. Well, I love hearing that. Joyce, you didn't get a newsletter for August and September. I don't know if you're on the list or not, Joyce. That's a good question. Well, if it's just your own theory, Fishing, you're more than welcome to post it here. Michelle says, everyone thought Lavender Doe was Brandy due to facial recognition. Brandy was, but she turned out to be someone else entirely. Not always right. Exactly, Michelle. Hello, Abigail. EB, tattoos, claws, shoes, and items could be matched. Well, that's true, but that was not, EB, that was not the question. Penny was asking me specifically about facial recognition software. Oakley, FRT analyzes a particular photograph and looks for a specific set of traits or markers. I believe the TSA uses it. That it may be, Oakley, but everything that I read tells me that it is not that accurate. I mean, it's not so inaccurate that, if they were to scan my face, that I would be mistaken for an 85-year-old woman. It's not that inaccurate, but the way I read it is if I were my face to be scanned and everything, that there could easily be 100, 200, 1,000, or men around my age that could be picked out who could be me. Well, of course, there's only one me. So I think that's just where we are right now. It is not like something like out of that movie, The Minority Report, or something like that. Chrissy, I'm wondering how you feel or what your take is on physics being used in missing person. Do you mean physics or psychics, Chrissy? Take on physics being utilized in missing persons cases, and if you've had any experience with that in any of the cases that you've covered. Chrissy, do you mean physics or psychics? You're going to have to determine which one you mean. Um, because, of course, physics are used in missing persons cases, but psychics are something. I just want to make sure that that's what you meant. So there's so I answered that question. Cherie says age progression too. Yeah, so much room for error. Yeah, a lot of room for error and anything having to do with people's faces. Uh, it's tough, especially when you're in a country of 300 some million people. You're gonna have a lot of people that look the same. Let's talk about. You know, it seems like we talk about this every week, but always it seems because there's always something going on. But there is now this story out there around Canadian Texas that there is actually a transcription out there um, of the meeting that Penny and all these people were at a few weeks ago when they, Penny and her family finally found out that the investigation into Tom's murder was being suspended. This story came up the day after last week, so I guess like last Thursday. Client Investigations posted something on Facebook about how they were very dismayed, disgusted to hear that somebody had secretly recorded the meeting and then turned that into a transcription that is now allegedly being passed around Canadian. All alleged. All alleged. I've had a chance to talk to Penny about this. I can't tell you everything, but here's something very important that you have to understand. Nobody in a position of believability has seen this transcription. Okay? Nobody's seen it. I know how Phil Klein found out about it, but as of the doing of this show, of the reporting of the show, of recording the show or this live show on September 4th, 2019 at roughly 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, nobody who would be in a position of a person who I would believe has ever seen the transcription. So until that happens, I'm not sure what to think. I'm not sure what to think. Sheree says, what in the world is going on in Texas? Sheree, I don't know. It's your state. I really, of course, I just visited it recently. Everything seemed fine to me. Of course, there are a lot of unsolved cases there, but I don't know, Sheree. But I don't want anybody to think out there that Penny or anybody else, somebody who we would believe, has seen this transcription. Nobody has. Now, having said all that the way I understand the meeting went is that I would personally have no problem with that transcription getting out there, no matter if the transcription was, I don't even know what the legality of it recording it was, okay? If it was even done. All right, this is, once again, all alleged. All alleged. Nobody in a position of, once again, of authority, of believability has seen this transcription. Okay? Phil Klein heard about it and posted what he did on his Facebook page. To my knowledge, he's not seen it. Having said that, the way I understand what Penny told me about what went on in the meeting, and I personally would have no problem with the transcription of the meeting getting out if the transcription is accurate. Now, of course, the issue is if the transcription does exist, is it accurate, or were things left out, or were things put in to make it look like something went on in the meeting that didn't? Okay? Once again, all alleged. All alleged. This is no different than when you hear about a video of something. Well, the video shows this, and then when you find, well, who's seen the video? We have no idea. It's something like that's what's going on right now. Okay? Nobody nobody can be sure that this transcription exists or not. It's just something that is out there. It is a rumor. It's a phone call. That's all it is right now. But even so, I have told Penny that if her recollection and her her account of the meeting is how it went, then that transcription, if it is accurate, should be out there. Okay, I don't care who recorded it, whether it's legal, illegal. I don't care if Sheriff Lewis recorded it. I don't care if somebody in the AG's office recorded it. I don't care if one of the Texas Rangers recorded it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. As long as it is accurate, I believe that it should be released to the public. Because why? Because what I understand about the meeting is that it kind of shows how puzzling the suspension of the investigation is. All right? So that's why I have counseled Penny to say if the transcription exists and if it is accurate, I told her I do not believe that you should fight for it to be released if your account of what happened there is accurate. Okay? If it is an accurate representation, and it does show that the Attorney General's office and the Rangers, doesn't paint them in the most positive light in how they handled some things. If that is the case, and all of the questions that were asked of them from Penny's family and others, if all of it's in the transcript, and it's all accurate in what I was told, then the transcript should be out there for everybody to see. Now, if it is inaccurate, and if things are left out, or things are put in that actually didn't happen in the meeting, then of course it shouldn't be out there. It shouldn't be. I don't think that we should automatically think because there might have been a recording and there might be a transcription that means it is negative toward those of us who believe that Tom Brown is murdered. Okay, I don't think that we should automatically think that. And I am not automatically ticked off that somebody recorded it. Me, as a guy who always asks for permission to record things before I do that over the phone for what I do with interviews and conversations and everything, I still always live by the thing, you have nothing to be worried about if you're being recorded as long as you're telling the truth. Okay, you have nothing to worry about. It's when you start lying and doing this and doing that is when you getting recorded is going to become a problem. Okay? And I just, I would not fight it. And I would not, if somebody did this illegally, is it illegal? I don't even know. I don't know. I think that varies state by state. Here's what I know. I'm never going to be mad about any recording of anything that I said that gets out that is actually the truth and represents me in actually what I said. There's no reason to fight anything like that. It's when people are public with things and maybe they lied is when they all people start getting jittery about recordings having been made and transcriptions of meetings and things like that. And I don't think that as an honest person, you should ever want to put yourself in a position where you are fighting against something that is the truth. Okay? Sheree says, if he hasn't seen it, then how does he know it exists? Why would he say these things without foundation? You have to ask yourself. Chrissy, not so much Texas, but like any small town in America, there's always a huge rumor mill. Why wouldn't Klein want it published? I don't know if Phil Klein has actually come out and say he doesn't want it published. I think that if you read his statement, he's just outraged that a recording might have been made in the first place. That's not the position that I would take if I had been in that meeting, but I wasn't there. Paula, do you know how many people were in the meeting? Quite a few, Paula. I know that Penny told me, I didn't count it as she was telling me how many people, but like 15, 17, 18 different people from the AG's office, Penny's family, like Tom's father was there, Penny's husband was there, I think a cousin of theirs was there, maybe Tucker, her other son was there, Sheriff Lewis and 2 of his deputies were there, a couple Texas Rangers were there. I mean, what does that all add up to? 15 people, something like that. Cherie said, if it's a recording, then it must be accurate. Well, that's true, Cherie, but we have to remember, transcription. Transcription. When you start talking about people then transcribe, as a guy who books have transcriptions in them, you better read the transcription of a recording before you publish it, which is why the publishing of the books takes so much time, because I have to read all of the transcriptions to make sure they are accurate as to what was said in the interview. Now, we may take out some words, and sometimes the way we talk isn't understandable, and I take some creative license in those transcriptions, but I always make sure that the point is made that what the person said is their meaning is accurate in the transcription. So, Cherie, I think we just have to keep in mind transcription, which means somebody listened to the recording and then typed it all out. Well, who knows what they may add and take out when they're doing a transcription of it. And that's why I say, as long as the transcription is accurate, then it should be released. If it has anything deleted or added after the fact by somebody transcribing and trying to put words in there, then I have a deep problem with that. Cherie says, in Texas, all you need is one party. Well, then there you go. Heather, Texas is a one-party state. I don't know how that works with law enforcement, though. Hello, Marcus. What's going on? Shelley says, my understanding is that it contains details the public doesn't need to know and would hinder the investigation. Well, Shelley, I don't believe that. I mean, if they're going to have 20 people in a room talking about an investigation, then the expectation of privacy and keeping things under wraps, whoever thinks that is stupid. To think that you could have people from different areas of law enforcement, you have family members, not just Tom's parents, but other family members who were allowed to come in there, and then expect them to all keep their mouth shut. It's just not rational thinking. So, if they want, first of all, the investigation's suspended, so there's no investigation to hinder. And on top of that, if they don't want anybody hindering the investigation, then they shouldn't allow 20 people to come to the meeting. Shree, well said. He wanted everyone to resign from their positions if they released it. I just have to shake my head. I would think if someone had recorded it, then it would have already been released. Well, the transcription is out there, Chrissy, allegedly. Allegedly. Cherie says, I agree with Cherie. Depends on who benefits. Paula, would law enforcement even discuss details with the family that they didn't want the public to know? No, they wouldn't. And that's I think the point I'm trying to make is that, if the AG's office and the Texas Rangers are all worried about details getting out, then they shouldn't tell anybody. Once you tell people that aren't part of the investigation, good luck. Good luck. Michelle, I have no problem with the truth ever as long as details aren't revealed that would hinder the investigation of a possible acquittal. Well, once again, Michelle, if, I know that the way I handle my discussions with my guests, I never reveal any details of our conversations that are understood to be secret. Okay, that is why I get permission from guests to cover that particular amount of information in interviews. Okay? This is why, I don't spread the other things that they say far and wide, and I don't invite 20 people to a meeting and expect everybody to keep their mouth shut. Thank you, Fishing. Sheree, it is ridiculous. Marcus, there would be no expectation of privacy at that point. They share that information with a third party. It's totally true, Marcus. I agree with you. I agree with you. Michelle, yes, Ellie discussed many things with us they didn't want public. I do believe that isn't always the case. I was extremely close to our first detective. What's going on, James? Shelley, you are correct. That is just playing out in the killer's favor. I'm referring to the police. Yes. Yes, the police share the information with people who aren't involved in the investigation. Penny is not involved in the investigation. Her husband in it isn't. Her cousin isn't. Her husband isn't. And frankly, Phil Klein isn't either. He's not in law enforcement. He's not part of he can't arrest anybody. He can't put anybody in cuffs or anything. All he can do is talk to people and things like that. So he is also a third party to this. He also is. So I don't know. It's crazy. It really is crazy, but I don't want anything that I am saying here to make you believe that I believe this transcription exists. I don't know. I don't know. It just sounds to me, from what I know, is that there's not much strong proof that I know of as of the recording of this show that shows the transcription is released. Me personally, if someone to call me from Canada and says, you're never going to believe this. I have a transcription. Somebody recorded the meeting from 2 weeks ago, and I have a transcription from it. You know what I would say to that person before I did anything else? How about scanning it and sending it to me? And then I'll talk to Penny, and we'll see if the transcription is accurate, and then we'll think about going public with it. That's how I would handle it, to verify that it's actually real. That is not what was done. That was not what was done. So I don't know what to tell you. I would never go public with something like that unless I laid my 2 eyes on it and got verification from somebody who was in the meeting that I trust that this is exactly what went on in the meeting. Then, as a reporter, I would go public with it, but only until then. And if that person, Penny or somebody else, said, you know what? No, this is not a transcription. Somebody's just making stuff up. I would bury it, and none of you would ever know about it. That's how I would handle it. Paula, so who would have wanted the meeting recorded? Well, Paula, I don't even know if we can get into that. I don't know. I can see all sorts of reasons, both in the pro and con side, on all sorts of angles. We're giving everybody that was there for their reasons to record it. Okay? I will tell you that some of the people who helped me put Unfound together, we have had conversations behind the scenes regarding this, but I'm not going to make any of that stuff public. Okay, I'm just not going to do that. We've run through all of the different scenarios, and I'm just going to keep it private for now. I think that a lot of people in that room had reasons to record it, good reasons, bad reasons, all sorts of reasons, because in that room are all different types of people from all different sides of Thomas's disappearance. So they all have their motives to want to record it, and then they also may have their motives for it not to be recorded, and they may have some motives to record it and then get a transcription out there that's not accurate. I mean, we can, it's infinity. We could go to infinity trying to figure all that stuff out. You got a bite, Fishing. I'm happy to hear that. Yes, Cherie's right. Paula, that's the $1,000,000 question. Um, Cherie, what do we know? Is Klein absolutely does not want anyone to hear or see it? Not going to get into that. Chrissy, I have mixed feelings about Phil. Bit of a sketchy past. Some people do believe that, Chrissy. And there are websites out there that talk about that. I don't know if they're true or not. I've never talked to them. I've never exchanged emails with them. So I don't know. All I'm saying is that I know how he found out about it. And if that version of events is true, it's not how I would have handled it. That's all I'm saying. If that version is true, that's not what I would have done. All right. Let's move on to something else. I'm just going to leave it. We could talk about that for hours. I'm just going to leave it at that. I do want to talk about. Tara had asked me early in the conversation about this story that went national about this little girl, Nalani Johnson, who was kidnapped. And unfortunately, she was found dead. This little girl, 2 years old, I think she was, in a park about 35 miles away from where uh, she was, whatever happened to her, where she disappeared from. And then um, she was found, unfortunately, deceased. If there's, people ask me, not very much, but I get it once in a while, why doesn't Unfound cover more missing children's cases? If you want the number one reason, just look at the case that happened, and it just coincidentally is right in the Pittsburgh area from Penn Hills with Nalani Johnson. That is the reason. You have a story where she was abducted, and the father met some woman online, and he was out with her and a friend of his, and they got into an argument. He gets out of the car with his friend, and this woman takes off with Nalani, and then she disappears. And then when this woman is tracked down, she's told the police, well, that Nalani's father paid her to go down the road, look for an SUV, and give his own daughter to somebody else, and gave it to a woman in an SUV, and she took off, etc., etc., etc. This is the reason that we don't cover missing children unless it is 100% sure, 100%, that the person that we're going to be talking to wasn't involved in the disappearance himself or herself. The main reason is when it comes to missing children, a large percentage of the time the parents are involved. And even with this case, although they have this woman, Sharina Nancy, in custody now, it very well may be that Nalani's father, Paul Johnson, is involved. Very believable. Could easily be the case. This is the reason that we stay away from those types of cases. I never want to get caught up in a situation on Unfound where somewhere down the road it is discovered that one of my guests were one of the people who caused somebody to disappear. Okay? I don't want to put myself in that position. And I think that being that it's usually I'm working with Emily most of the time with these guests and everything, this is a conversation that she and I have once in a while. That we just need to make sure that, of course, when you're covering a blogger like my friend Anthony or Heather Grotman or Dennis Mahan, all who have been on the program, then of course none of them were involved in any of the cases that they were on the program for. But when it comes to parents, you have to kind of listen to things and make sure it makes sense. And even when, young children, we've only done a few. Kimberly Norwood, Debbie Lowe, to name a few. There's a reason. There's a reason. Any comments on, are you asking me that, Sheree? Any comments on Shannon's statement? Yeah, I will cover that, Sheree. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry, glad I caught you live. Thank you for giving us your time. Well, I hope you're not leaving us, Shelly. We're going to be here for a while. I still got some other things to cover. But this is the reason. It's a national story. And if you've read it, and it just once coincidentally, it happened in Penn Hills. One of my best friends, his name is Sean, went to Penn Hills High School, so I know that area. And if you want a reason why Unfound doesn't cover too many missing children's cases, you can look at that. So there you go. Just too many he said, she said, weird stories, and you don't know if it's one parent just trying to incriminate the other parent. They could both be involved, pointing fingers. It's just too hard to determine what the truth is in those types of cases if you aren't actually there. And so Emily and I choose to play it safe, and we just stay away from those cases, period. Oh, you're asking everyone about Shannon's statement? Sure, Sheree. Fine. Okay, great. Larry asked me a non-true crime question, being that he knew that I drove up here to Pennsylvania. This will kind of add a little levity, I guess, to the show tonight. Larry asked me, what do I eat and drink on the road? Okay. First of all, I don't drink a lot. Of course, when I drink, I mean, I don't drink alcohol and everything at all. But like when it comes to water or Coke, Coca-Cola, or chocolate milk, I really try to stay away from too many liquids because I don't want to be pulling over to go to the bathroom all the time. I'm the kind of person that when I get in the car, I just want to get to where I'm going. Hence how I was able to drive to Amarillo, fairly quickly. Even though it's a 22, 23 hour drive. And even with a snooze, I got there in about 27 hours. I just like to get in the car and go get gas and just go to the bathroom when I get gas, and that's it. So I don't drink a lot. So I may end up, when I get to my location, I may be a little dehydrated. As far as food goes, I like beef jerky, Slim Jims. I like to eat Cheez-Its. Anything that you can kind of have one hand on the wheel and the other hand in a box, or Slim Jim or something like that. Potato chips are good. Popcorn is good, although when you're in the car and those kernels get between your teeth, are tough to get out. So maybe I try to stay away from that. I like I'll admit it, maybe a couple candy bars or something. But most importantly, I really just try to stay away from too many liquids because, they'll go right through you. And then it seems like you're pulling over to go to the bathroom all the time. And all that does is slow you down. So that's really, how I travel. I don't like too many heavy food like hamburgers, eating on the road, or anything like that. So that's what I do. I think it's like beef jerky. I love beef jerky, even though it's like the Slim Jim stuff, which I know is considered processed meat. But I love that. And anything that's not going to make me pick my teeth too much while I'm driving. So there you go. I hope that answers Larry's question. Michelle says, I personally would have wanted to record it, but it would have been too chicken to do it. Sure, if you were in the meeting. Well, like I said, Michelle, everybody has their reasons, would have had their reasons to record it, but that doesn't mean all of their reasons are the same. Taco Bell, Camilla says, nah, Camilla, I'm not a Taco Bell guy at all. No. I'm not much of a fast food guy. If it's going to be Mexican food, I go to Chipotle, and that's about it. Christy says, many times when crimes against children are committed, the parents are either directly or indirectly involved. My young cousin in the Dallas area was killed a few years back by her dad's girlfriend. Yes. I'm very sorry to hear that, Chrissy, but your situation is in child's murders or disappearances is very common. Yeah. Paula, I don't like to fly, Paula. I used to have a fear of flying, but it's not even that more. I just don't like being cooped up like that. And sitting in there, sitting beside somebody you don't know, and inevitably it seems that when I get on a plane and I get off of it, it ends up I get sick or something. And with the thing is, Paula, with my car, if I'm driving here to Pennsylvania, it's like 17 hours, and I can do it all in one trip, just getting gas. And my car gets 40 miles to the gallon. So it's cheaper to drive here, even though it's more hours than it is to fly. So I'll drive. And then I have a car while I'm here. And that's convenient for everybody. Now, of course, if I was going to go to Las Vegas or California, then yes, I'm probably going to have to fly. But I try to avoid it just because I'm kind of over it. I'm just kind of over it a little bit. I suppose if I could fly first class or had my own private jet and things, of course, then that would be different. But flying commercial in coach, like they're herding cattle, I just hate it. Heather, there was a second question Larry asked that made me laugh. I didn't see the second question, Heather, unfortunately. Camilla, Michigan is beautiful. I've been there before. What car do I drive? I drive a Hyundai Sonata that gets about 40 miles to the gallon. It's not a hybrid or anything. It's just a regular gas engine. And even going 75 miles an hour from Florida to Pennsylvania, I can get about 40 miles to the gallon. That's a true story. It's amazing. The car is amazing. I just am blown away. It's kind of a geek car, and it's it looks like it used to be actually a rental car, and there are many on the road, and I don't even care. It runs great. The sound system in it's good. The air conditioning is cold. That's really all I care about. It's a 2016 Hyundai Sonata is what I drive. He asked if I would go to Waffle House at 2 a.m. I'm not a waffle guy, Heather, so the answer is no. I'm not really a waffle guy. I'm more of a pancakes guy. Actually, I'm more of a French toast guy. But I would never go to Waffle House. My mother loved Waffle House. That's just... I'll go to IHOP, but Waffle House, no. Please, no private jets. Okay, Sheree, no private jets. Let me talk about Shannon's statement, being that Sheree brought it up. She sent that to me. I want you to know that I've never had, until recently, a conversation with Shannon Casselton. Never have. Okay? Obviously, your son's name has come up. I've talked about her son on this show. I've talked about her son with Penny. I've talked to her about her son to people behind the scenes with Cherie, Emily, and other people who helped me work on the program. But I've never talked to Shannon until recently. She sent me that message that I posted in the group last week. Now, since then, she and I have had a back and forth through email. I've asked her a variety of questions. Okay? She's answered many of them, and then I've asked her some more questions. She's answered some more. However, it's with the understanding that the answers to those questions would not be made public. And so I am sorry, I cannot reveal the questions or the answers. Okay? All I can tell you is that as long as she's willing to talk, I'm willing to talk to her. All right? I am, as you can imagine, I'm trying to avoid a lot of the fringe theories out there. However, I will admit that I have asked her some pointed questions about what something people have said since Tom disappeared. Okay? And she has responded to those questions. All right, she has answered those questions. Like I said, though, I'm not going to get into what exactly the questions were or what her answers were because she has asked me not to. All right? However, I do believe it's good to get anybody, being that her son did know Tom. I can tell you that there are no plans right at this time to talk to her son Michael at this point. I've asked her about it, but her attitude is that he has been asked so much already by Phil Klein and other people about it, and there are so many rumors regarding him and the disappearance that he's not talking to anybody about Tom Brown at this point. Okay? So I've asked that. That's not going to happen, I don't think, anytime soon. That's about all I can say. But I want you to know that I have asked that question. French toast rocks. Yes, French toast does rock, Tara, but waffles do not. Chrissy, hate flying last time I flew. Yes, yeah. Michelle, try Duke's original beef sticks, Ed. So much. Okay, now people are giving me Slim Jim or beef jerky recommendations. I love that. I can't get enough beef jerky recommendations. Love it. But I think that that Shannon, I have to be honest with you, that Shannon is willing to talk to anybody like myself, given how I've covered the program and how much I'm involved, and she knows I'm a reporter and everything, that she's willing to talk to me at all is a credit to her. Okay? Because when she sent me that statement, she just sent it to me out of the blue, and she asked me to post it, and I said I would. And then I asked her, can I ask you some questions? And that's how we got everything started. All right? She had never, to my recollection, she never contacted me or anything since I got involved in Tom Brown's case way back in April 2018. But that she's willing to even ask any questions from a person like myself, I appreciate that. Okay? And I would like to continue to keep the dialogue going. All right? I think that what has happened in Tom Brown's case, it seems that, people have staked out their positions and nobody is having any constructive communication between all different sides of this investigation. All right. And me personally, I'd like to talk to everybody. I'd like to talk to Nathan Lewis if he'd allow it. However, like with anybody else, I would have to ask him tough questions regarding all of the things that I've heard. All right, so I don't think he's going to want to talk to me. But I'll talk to anybody. When I say I will talk to anybody, I will. What I want to try to avoid, though, is that I really want to try to avoid talking to people that are just going to come in just lying. All right, that doesn't help anybody. So, I'd love to talk to the Attorney General. Not going to talk to me. Love to talk to Nathan Lewis. Not going to talk to me. I'd love to talk to some of these other names that have come up. Not going to talk to me probably. But if I get a chance, I promise all of you, I will ask the tough questions. All right, that's my responsibility. All right, now it may be that I can't tell you the answers. Maybe, it just depends. It depends. But I will promise you that I will ask the tough questions, and so we can get these people on the record, possibly for future use. Camilla, I love and admire your work. Ended up here from John Lorden. Camilla, thank you for tuning in. And I want to thank John again for talking about Unfound and giving us some nice credit for the coverage of Jonathan Estes' case. So much truth and rumors, so many rumors and truth. Very true. Marcus, what do you have against waffles? Waffles have never made anybody disappear. They're just not my thing, Marcus. I can see why a lot of people like them, but I think I'm more of a pancake French toast guy. Really, I'm a French toast. My mother loved French toast, and that's something I think I got from her. I love French toast too. Oh, forget about it. Camilla, I really don't like to talk. There's no one case that really sticks with me. I don't look at any case like that, so I just say that to answer that. Christy says, don't you think it was another juvenile that was involved in Tom's death that would have revealed it to someone by now? Christy, I don't take anything for granted in this case at this point. So I would have to. Don't you think if it was another juvenile? No, I don't. I think everything. Christy, I think everything in this case is up in the air right now. That's what I think. But regarding Shannon Casselton, I'll continue to talk to her. If any questions, if there's things that I find out, I will bounce the information off of her to see what she has to say. Once again, just so I have the information. I'm in the information business. So I like to collect information, especially from people who, knew a missing person or they had a child that knew the missing person. You never know when their opinions or what they remember or anything is going to come into play. Now, I guess you should just take for granted. Shannon, of course, and her son, speaking for him, they have nothing to do. She stands by the statement. They have nothing to do with Tom's disappearance at all. Zero. Okay, zero. So you should know that. That is her blanket statement regarding that. Nothing to do with Thomas's disappearance or anything like that. She doesn't know what happened. She doesn't believe that her son knows what happened. Nothing. All right, I think I can say that, which I don't think that you should be a surprise that she would say that. Paula, the fact that she's talking to you speaks volumes for how you build relationships and people can trust you. People can trust me. All right, they can trust me. Who is the third year anniversary podcast? Let's talk about that. We've gone in like an hour and 15 minutes now. Trina, I'm glad you asked. What goes on with so that's the end of the Shannon Casselton discussion. What goes on in the third year anniversary episode, Trina, is I replay the first interview I ever conducted as the host of Unfound. Okay? The interview that you will hear on Friday was done with Mary Lyle, the mother of Suzanne Lyle. It was done sometime in August of 2016, so over 3 years ago. And that's what the third anniversary is. That's what the anniversary show is always going to be. It will always be next year, the year after that, the year after that. It's always going to be the first interview that I ever did because I think that that is the perfect way to commemorate Unfound because we are all about interviews and talking to people. And it also is the fact, I think it's good also that Mary Lyle is a well-known person in the missing persons community, and you cannot even begin to understand how much support she has given Unfound since we've gotten to know each other. Okay. Now there will be new commentary after, so the commentary that you will hear this Friday is different than the commentary that was in the original episode going back to September of 2016. And it will even be different commentary than was like after the first year and second year anniversaries. So what you will be hearing in the summation after the interview was something that I just recorded recently. So that's what the third anniversary episode is, and that's what the anniversary episode is always going to be. And I think that that will be that way even if Suzanne's disappearance is solved tomorrow, that I would anticipate that even next year I would still play that interview because it meant so much to the program. So there you go. Chrissy, yes, I totally believe that woman. I guess Shannon, you're talking about Shannon. My heart goes out there for her having to try to grieve while defending her family's name. Yes. Right, regarding Shannon Casselton. Yes. But that's what the third anniversary episode is going to be this Friday, being that we're now talking about that. And I forget how long it is. Maybe it's a couple hours. I know that my interview with Mary went decently long. Not one of the longest interviews I ever did, but it's probably above the average. A lot to cover in that case. And of course, that case is still unsolved. But, there's a bunch of students in a criminal justice program in New York who are working on it now. And there's been a standalone podcast about Suzanne's disappearance that has happened. So a lot of things have gone on with Suzanne's case since we covered it in September of 2016. And that's really good for a disappearance that's now over 20 years old. So that will be the third anniversary. Let me get to one more question here, and then we will wrap this up. Trina, I guess this is the same Trina. She asked me if there are any embarrassing interview moments. Probably the most embarrassing ones for me were the time that I interviewed Cheryl Wheeler and discovered that none of it, my phone didn't record any of it, so I had to do the entire interview over again. Unfortunately, that just happened recently with Aaron Nickels' interview where we got about half of the way in and I discovered that for some reason my phone wasn't recording the conversation and we had to totally redo it. We had to redo the first half of that interview. So the interview you heard this past Friday, at least the first half of it, was the second time around. And each of those times, going back to Cheryl's interview, which was for her sister Linda K. Carroll's case, and then with Aaron Nickels, I can't even begin to tell you how understanding both women were. And said, no problem, let's get it done, let's do it again. I can't even begin to understand you how nice they were about it. I really, really thank them for that because it's very embarrassing to me. I consider myself to be a professional, and when phones don't record, it doesn't sound very professional. Okay, and I don't. Of course, I don't like that happen for many reasons, but when my phone doesn't record like it should, it makes me feel like some fly-by-night operation or something, and I of course don't like that feeling, and I never want anybody to get that feeling about myself or Unfound because that's not what we are. Okay, we're serious, and but things need to work, and so I think what it means is I just need to watch my phone. I don't know why it happened, but I just need to watch it again and make sure that it's recording. Christy says Cherie also they would have spent more time processing the vehicle properly instead of returning it so soon. That's true, Chrissy, in Tom's case, but you could say a lot about a lot of cases. It's not unusual for a missing person's vehicle to be returned to the family the same day it's found. It's not unusual. I don't like it. It's not the right way to do things, but I don't want people to think that there was something shady about that because it happened in Tom's case, because it happens a lot in cases where there aren't as many conspiracy theories as there are in Tom's case. So, Chrissy, I don't want you to obsess on that fact too much to think that there was some funny business going on. I can see why you might think that, but it's happened in a lot of other cases where no funny business was going on. Tara says, hey, things happen regarding the recording. Well, that's true, Tara, but that was bad. It's just bad. When that happens, man, my heart's just, I'm so, I get so nervous and my heart goes like 220 beats a minute or something. So that's probably my most embarrassing moments, Trina. Other than that, I don't think that my guests would want me to get into anything that happened during an interview that we had to, delete or cut out anything. I don't think any of my guests want me to go there. So that's about it. Hour and 20 minutes. What do we do? I'm in Pennsylvania, as you can see. The Orlando tournament, I am still a better podcaster than I am disc golf player, and that will probably always be the case. My dad and I shot some guns today. We talked about the Trevor's Nickels poll. We talked about going to Canada. We talked about the alleged transcription of the meeting that Penny Brown was in a couple weeks ago and the ramifications of that and whether it's even true. Talked about Brain Scratch giving a shout out to Unfound for our work on Jonathan Estes' case. Thank you there. Talked about Moselle Jones Grisham having a YouTube channel now. And the newsletter's out. We talked about Nailani Johnson as an example of why we do not cover many missing children's cases on Unfound. And then I talked about the third anniversary episode coming out this Friday. And then I took some questions from Penny, Larry, and Trina. Paula says, tell your dad we all said hello and have a safe and fun trip. Thank you, Paula. I'm going to tell him that. Thank you. There are a lot of unanswered questions, Chrissy. That's just the way it is right now regarding all of Unfound's cases. Sheree, I'm glad we all don't have to talk about our most embarrassing moments at work. I'm sure, Sheree, I'd love to hear some of yours. But I'm going to go. Thank you all for watching tonight. Of course, you will hear me on Friday for the 3rd anniversary episode where I will replay my interview with Mary Lau that I did in August of 2016. I have no idea what's going to go on for the Think Tank for Sunday night, and I have no idea what's going to go on for the YouTube live show next Wednesday night because of me being in Canada. But this is Friday anniversary show, September 13th update episode. So there you go. But thank you all for watching tonight. Always love this. One of my favorite times of the week. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Have a safe night. And if you're in Georgia, on the shores of Georgia or South Carolina, North Carolina, watch yourselves. Good night.